Hey guys, Ryan here with another video, and this video is going to be the second part of my biking in Dublin series. And the first part was Bleeper bikes versus Dublin bikes, and this one is going to be about bike lanes and how to bike on the road in Dublin. Now, disclaimer before I continue into this so I don't get in trouble, this isn't legal advice. I'm not telling you what to and what not to do while biking with any legal authority. I'm just telling you what I have personally experienced through biking in Dublin and giving you some kind of like just to know what to expect, because there is some people that say it's very dangerous, and I just kind of wung it and did it one day, and I was terrified for the first few weeks until I got used to it. So I just want to let you guys kind of know what to expect. Now, if any of this scares you and you want to look into it more, feel free to look up some of the laws and regulations for biking. There are some that you'll notice nobody actually obeys when I was looking into it, and there's some that people do, and I just kind of like follow what everyone else does. And sometimes if it seems dangerous and people are doing it, I'll hold back and find my own way to do something, like making a right turn. I'll get into that. Anyway, so first things first is going to be bike lanes in Dublin. And I was outside biking a few days ago, and I planned on making the whole video outside, but I don't have a GoPro, so I couldn't really attach anything to my head. So I was kind of biking with one arm on the handlebars and the other one trying to hold my phone as steady as possible while I was biking. And it was also busy outside, so I just didn't want to get into an accident. So that's why I'm sitting in here, and I'm going to kind of discuss what is in these videos that I'm showing you in the safety of my own home, so I don't get hit by a car while I'm talking about them. So the first video that you're going to see that I'm going to play in a second is probably the safest version of a bike lane, or the safest way to bike in Dublin. And I don't know if this applies anywhere else in Ireland. I haven't biked anywhere else, so it might be the same, it might not. I don't want to give any information for that. But specifically to Dublin, the first video I'm going to show you is a completely separated bike lane from the road, and I'll get into it. There's kind of levels of separation between them, and there's actually all three of them in this one bike lane that I was in. So let us get into it. Oh, that's not it. Hang on. So you'll notice in this one, right now, there's a cement divider between me and the actual road. And in this lane, there is two lanes. There's one for each direction for the bikes, and there's a middle divider. So it's kind of like its own separate road, and then a concrete divider, and then the actual road. And if you'll notice on this section right here, there is even a small stoplight for me to pay attention to. And there's also one for the crosswalk people, and sometimes they're the same, sometimes not. And you'll notice in about a second or so, this guy right in front of us in the bike is gonna watch the crosswalk sign instead of the bike sign for when to go. And that's not technically legal, but everybody does it. And normally I would have done it as well, but since I was making this video, I figured I would wait and talk about it. Now you'll notice you are passing in front of the road in this part, and there's no way around that, and that's why they give you like your own separate bike lane and bike light, stoplight. Now I'm going to continue going across the road, and pretty soon after this, it's going to turn into the second separated type of bike lane. I don't remember quite where, but it's not too far from here. And if some of you guys know where this is, I'm actually passing underneath I think it's the Dart, it might be the Lewis, I always get the two confused. But I'm passing underneath one of the trains in Dublin right now along the canal. And this is actually a fun area to hang out in the summertime. And people always have like cans by the canal. Anyway, now I'm coming up to the second type of separation, I guess you would say. And this one is one that is completely separated from the road. If you'll notice, I think I even put the video camera down for a second. Right here. The lane itself is about 3 feet above the road, and it's off between like a walkway down there as well. So it's completely separated from the road, but it is still following the main road. And now it's turning into the last type of bike lane, the separation, and this one is just completely off of the road. there's no road near it and it's its own thing. And this one's more common in parks and areas, but it just happened to work out perfectly that you get to see all three types in this one section. So that is the first video I took, and I was actually coming back from Rathmines. If you guys, some of you know where that is, I'll make a video about like certain areas in Dublin, because I had some people ask me questions about certain things and I want to make a new video about that. But I was coming home from Rathmines and I thought that first stretch on the bike lane would have been perfect to show you guys, to show you all three types of separated bike lanes that there are. So the first one is separated but like still on the main road, and there's just like a small divider between you, and sometimes it's even less than that, and there's just cones, like traffic cones between you and the road, and that would probably be the least amount of separation. And then the concrete divider like you saw, and then one that it's completely separate but still following the road, and then finally one that's not even near the road and it's like in a park or it's on its own thing. And one of my favorite parks, Blackrock Park, has this bike lane that you can, or just walking a pathway and a bike lane and stuff, and you can go through it, and it's really cool and peaceful. So that is the first video I took for you guys, and that was probably the safest one I took as well. All I had to do is worry about the car, or the other bike in the other lane. So anyway, let's get into the second one, and this one is going to be a bike lane but on the actual road, and the only thing is it's like your own separate lane, and you're kind of like riding in the bus lane part of the time, and you're in your own separate lane part of the time, and you're just staying on the side of the road. So let's get into this one. You'll notice I'm actually riding right behind this person, and there's cars to the right of me, and right here is where a bus would be able to come in, and right here in the square that you're seeing right here is where the bus would park. So sometimes if a bus is there, as this van is actually, if a bus is there, you have to go around them. So you have to kind of, you're cutting into the actual traffic of the road, and you have to look behind you and merge lanes and then merge back. And you'd want to put your arm out, extend your arm out to let cars know if there's any cars coming, that you're coming in, and make it pretty obvious, because it is dangerous, especially if it's busy. And you're following the rules of the road in this lane. Now, most people, you'll notice if you start biking in Dublin, do follow the crosswalk signs more so than the actual traffic light signs, and I've never seen anyone get in trouble for it. I do it myself as well, but luckily right here in this video is all green. I didn't have to stop. But yeah, so what you'd want to do at least is at a red light that has a green crosswalk sign, you'd want to stop, because when I was looking at the laws, it says if you don't stop at the traffic light, you can get a ticket. But it doesn't say anything about going on the crosswalk. So I think you might be able to wiggle your way through it if you do wind up getting in trouble, if you stop and then you continue going. But some people just push all the way through because there's a free crosswalk sign, so they know that no cars are going to be coming, and they've never gotten in trouble for it. So it's up to you what you want to do. But like I said, in those lanes, if there's a bus in front of you and taxis and stuff, sometimes taxis are rude. They'll just cut right in front of you and park, where like they could have just been behind you and parked 5 feet earlier, but they have to pull in front of you and then park. So then you're stuck either slamming on your brakes or like full on cutting you off too. So you have to either slam on your brakes or anticipate it, which after you start doing it, noticing it a few times, you start to anticipate if you see a taxi, he's gonna cut in front of you. So you make sure you're able to, there's no cars coming, so you're able to swerve out into the road when he does finally cut in front of you. So there's kind of tricks that you can pick up on those lanes. And those are probably the most common of the three I'm going to show you, the three bike lanes. Of the three bike lanes that I'm going to show you. And that's just because, it's just like a small section of the road that you're essentially just in the bus lane. Like it's the side of the bus lane that they give you. And so you and buses are both in that lane together, usually not so much cars. And now the third type of bike lane I'm going to show you is one that's not even a bike lane. You're literally just riding on the road. And this one, it isn't very common. Don't pay attention to this dark asphalt thing that looks almost like it could be a divider between us. That just happens to be the road is old. usually that wouldn't be there. So I'm literally just riding on the left side of the road, as close to the cars as I can get safely while cars are passing me. And luckily this road is pretty wide, and I think that's usually where I've seen it as well, is it tends to be this type of a thing where there's no bike lane, tends to be more so where cars park on the side of the road, so you couldn't really have a bike lane anyway. And also the roads tend to be wider. And the reason for that is I think they're anticipating bikes and cars kind of backing in and out of spaces. And so they figured if they make the road wide, cars are going to stay in the middle, and bikes and parking cars can stay on the outside of the road. And actually, on the left side of this video right here at the very end is a Dublin bike station. And that goes along with my last video where I was talking about them. That's what they would look like, because I didn't have a picture of that. And anyway, so on this lane, you'd want to be the most careful of all of them, because obviously you're riding in the actual road and there's no bike lane. Cars have to see you and figure out what you're doing and get around you or slow down and drive behind you. So you want to make yourself the most visible in those lanes. If you know you're going to be biking somewhere and it's getting dark and you don't have anything neon or light, I would recommend getting off and walking in those sections and then coming back onto your bike in the other two versions of bike lanes. I actually don't have a neon vest, but I think they're pretty cheap. You could probably pick them up at a store at like Penny's or something, but not JC Penney's. They have another store here called Penny's. Anyway, so now let's get into turns, because I know a lot of you, this is specifically for Americans or other countries that are used to driving on, I'm so messed up, I can't remember what side of the road we drive on. I sit on the left of my car back home, so I guess we would drive on the right. Yeah, so if you're used to driving on the right side of the road and now you have to figure out how to drive on the left, if you make a right turn, almost inevitably you're going to cut into the wrong side of the road. And if you make a right turn, and if you make a left turn, you're gonna probably, you're not gonna do it right when you first get here. So I would recommend following somebody else. Now, usually what bikes do is they'll get to the front of the lane and then to get in front of all the cars, and then they're the first ones to go when they see that no cars are coming. Sometimes when the light is green, sometimes when it's just no cars going. Until you're used to turning wide on a right turn and inside on a left turn, which is honestly a lot harder than you'd expect to remember, I would recommend staying in the actual lane and following everyone else. So when you're making a right turn, you can't stay on the left side of the road in the bike lane. You have to get into the road itself, get into the right lane on the turn lane, and then just turn with the rest of the cars. And that's what I mean. Most bikes would kind of lane split and then get to the front of the line and then just be the first ones to go and then stay on the outside so cars can pass them. But what I would recommend, because if you cut too early, then a car's going to hit you. So I would recommend you staying in the lane, wait your turn. When you see the cars moving, just follow them, and then you're not going to mess up because you're literally just following the leader. That is one option. Another option to make a right turn, and this is what I actually did for the first month of me biking here in Dublin, is I would bike up to the line on the left side of the road, get off my bike, walk across the crosswalk, and then walk across the crosswalk again, and then get back on my bike, and then continue biking. And that was just to avoid getting into the middle of the road, because I didn't know how safe it would be, and I didn't really know how to do it, and I didn't want to risk cutting too early. And also, I was terrified of it. I guess that's kind of the same thing. But anyway, so that's kind of what I would recommend doing, especially at first. Now I'm more used to it, and unless it's like a super busy day and I'm too scared to get into the road, I will get into the right lane and then turn on when it's my turn to go. As if you're a car, you're just a slow car in those sections. Then you get back into your bike lane as soon as possible. I think that is about everything I can think of to say about biking in Dublin. It's relatively safe compared to probably I don't know if it's like a huge thing to say that it's dangerous to bike in Dublin. It might just be it's dangerous to bike in a big city in general. And I don't see anything particularly dangerous about biking in Dublin compared to anywhere else. Because back home, my friends and I would go to downtown San Diego and ride the line bikes all around, and sometimes maybe like the Mesa or certain areas in San Diego. And nothing has ever happened there that hasn't happened in Ireland that I have noticed in Dublin, except for the turning. You might mess up and turn too soon or too late. That is the only thing I can really think of, because the rest of it, it's fairly self-explanatory. There is more bike lanes here than what I'm used to seeing. I think they're even making more. I've heard there's some legislation they're trying to push to make more bike lanes. I think like the separated version of the bike lanes, and cars or people that drive are getting kind of mad at that because it's saying they're taking up space on our roads. Why don't you just let them bike on the side? Why are you going to give them their own lane? And I think people that live in those areas are also getting mad. I don't remember where I heard this, but I heard that people that live in those areas that they're trying to build bike lanes are getting mad as well, because they have to make the roads wider. So they're taking away some of the land and cutting into certain properties and stuff. So I don't know how successful they're going to be, but it appears to me that they are continuing to make more bike lanes as time moves on, and it's getting safer and safer. So yeah, that is all the information I could think of to tell you about biking in Dublin. If you have any questions, please comment below. If you have any concerns, or if you're worried about anything, or if you think I missed something and I need to make another video about this, comment below, let me know. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, and apparently hit the notification bell. I always hear that that's a huge thing now. I don't know. Yeah, and I will see you in our next video.